Today we are going to be talking about how to make this kind of simple tycoon button. It looks great, and we're also going to be talking about how you can easily set it up and use it in your own world with only one script. Step one is creating the button. We're going to start here with the cylinder. Now, before we start moving this, make sure your move is set to 0.25 studs and your rotate is checked on here to 15 degrees. That's just to make sure everything can snap easily, and when you move it, everything stays size consistent. So we're going to drag this down to be 0.25 studs tall and then drag it out until down here in the settings, it's 0.25 by 5 by 5. We're going to rename this base. Make sure it's anchored by clicking this button. And then we're going to change a few properties like setting it to smooth plastic and making it just a dark gray color. After this, we're going to clone this by pressing Ctrl D and then move it up, and then holding Control and dragging these, we can size this in so it's a little bit smaller than the bottom. We'll rename this part button. This is going to be the actual button you step on, and we're also going to come in here and give it a nice green vibrant color. Now pressing Control, we'll select both of these and then press Ctrl G to group these into a model, call it button. And now to give this button the nice glow we already saw, we need to do a few things here. So for one, we'll select this button and underneath it add an attachment. Call this position 1, and then we'll move it over, snapping until it's on the edge of the circle. Then we'll duplicate this, move it over to the other side, and call it position 2. Next thing we can do is add in a beam underneath the button. The most important properties of this beam are the attachments. These are what it's connected to. So we'll set the attachments of this beam to position 1 and 2. And then for the texture, we're going to use this image. The AssetID is here on screen, or you can also look in the description of this video. And then we'll set the light influence to 0, the emission to 1 to make sure we can see it. Now, you'll notice this beam isn't here. If we click face camera, we'll see the beam is here, but right now it's inside the button. We want it to curve around the edges of the button so the button looks like it has a nice glow coming off of it. Unchecking face camera here. The way we do this is with curve size. If we set the curve size 0 and 1 to 3, we'll notice we can see it, but it's in a weird position. That's because the curve size depends on how these attachments are rotated. So if we go to rotate these and move them sideways like this, 90 degrees, the beam is somewhere in this button, and we just have to tweak these until we find the correct way we need it rotated. Here we see we've made a bit of an S shape, but that's not quite what we want. We want this S to be moved around the button, so we'll move this over here, and now we can see this beam is wrapped around the edge of the button like how we need it. Coming into the beam, we can make it taller by setting the width on width 0 and width 1 to 3, and we can increase its brightness also to give it a little bit more life. The last thing we have to do here is set segments to 20 to ensure that the beam is rounded around the edge of the button. Then selecting this beam, we can press Ctrl D, duplicate it, and move these curve sizes negative, and that will wrap it around the other side, giving us a continuous glowing look. The last thing we need to do is add a particle effect. We'll add a particle emitter, and then we want these coming out of the top of the button. So if you select right, it's actually the right side of the cylinder part, which makes it go upwards. To get the particle effect we want, follow along with these settings. Light emission of 1, light influence of 0. We'll set the lifetime to 4,5. Particles will be between 4 and 5 seconds. And we'll bring the rate down to 3. Rotation, we'll do negative 360 to 360, so it can be any rotation. And rotation speed, we'll also set a range of negative 15 and 15. The starting speed, we don't want to be that fast, so we'll set it as a range of 3 to 5. And on the spread angle, we'll also set a range of negative 15 to 15, so particles can go outward a little bit. The next setting to adjust is drag. Set this to 3, and that'll make the particles pop out and then slow down. Let's also rename this particle emitter to sparks. We'll also be using a different texture than the default particle. It'll be this texture ID, which you can also find in the description or here on screen. And now we'll adjust the size of these. They're way too big. So we'll come into this editor and drag both ends to 0. And then here in the middle, at time position 0.5, we'll set the value to 0.4 and give it a little envelope of 0.1, so that way the particles can vary in size a little bit. We also want them to vary in transparency, so we'll click on these 3 dots to create a graph for that. Drag both ends to 0 so the particles fade in and out. and then move them around the third bar here. And if you grab these little dots, you can drag up to create an envelope on these, and that envelope adds a little bit of randomness in how transparent they are. That's a good look for our finished button. Step 2 is to create a script that manages this button when you step on it to build something in your world or to do any kind of effect you want. We'll start by adding a script to starter player scripts, a local script, and we'll just call it buttons. The way we're going to do this script is by using a service, the collection service. We're also going to need replicated storage. And the way we're going to do this is by coming onto the button here and actually scrolling down until you get to tags and adding a new tag or finding an existing one called tycoon button. So we'll add a tag called tycoon button to this. And then in our script, we'll add a variable called tycoon tag and type in tycoon button here. With the collection service, you can do a function called get tagged and then pass in that tycoon tag. And this will return a list of every object in your game with that tag applied to it. So if we have 300 of these buttons and they're all tagged tycoon button, we can get all of those buttons easily in that one script by just getting a reference to all the tagged objects. So we'll use this in a for loop. We'll go for nothing button in iPairs collection service get tagged tycoon tag, and then we want to do something with that button that we found out of this list. So the first thing we need to do is actually make sure it's a button and we haven't mistagged something. Because if we accidentally clicked on this model and added a tag, then we can't use a touched event on it and we can't see how things have happened properly. What we need is the part of the button here. So the first thing we'll do is check if not button is a base part, then we don't want to try to set it up. That'll leave an error in our script. So we'll warn you. We'll say this button is not a base part. That way, if you do it on accident and you're in studio, it'll let you know that you've mistagged something. Then now that we know it's a base part, we can go button.touched and then connect it to a new function. So yeah, let's print button was touched. Now since this is on a local script, sometimes things load into the game or don't load into the game before this script. So we're checking here for all of the items that already exist that are tagged. But if another button gets added after it checks this, it won't set up this touched event here. So what we can also do is again use collection service and do get instance added signal, pass in the tycoon tag, and then connect this to a function. Now this in alone is a connection just like .touched. It says when a new object is added, it's going to fire this function and pass in the button that got added with that tag. So then we can just copy this and paste it down here. Now the last thing we need to do is get some references to a folder in replicated storage, which we haven't created yet. So in replicated storage, we'll create a folder and we'll call it remotes. This will store the remote event that we need. And then we'll add a remote event and we'll call it button press. So here in our references, we'll get remotes as replicated storage.remotes. This is a really easy way of getting all of the remote functions or remote events that you need. Instead of referencing them individually, you can reference their parent folder. And then when the button is touched, we can say remotes.buttonPress fire server. We'll also copy that and put it down in this touched function as well. And the reason we want to do that is because you don't ever want to let the player's machine control important server functionality like building something in a tycoon, because if we wanted to check how much money you have, a player could lie about how much money they have and then progress through their tycoon and exploit your game that way. So instead, we're going to fire to the server the button that got pressed, and then the server will know based on which button that got pressed, which part of your tycoon to build or which effect to spawn. So to manage that server behavior, we'll enter server script service and create a new script, which we can call button manager. In this script, we just need a reference to replicated storage and then also a reference to the remotes folder. Now we can say remotes.buttonPress on server event when a player touches a button, and we'll connect it to a new function with the player who pressed the button and the button they pressed. Now, if you're building a tycoon, this is where you would check for the player's money, which build they're on, etc., and make sure they're not trying to cheat or exploit your game. But here, we're just showing the basic functionality of it. So here's where we're going to build something in the tycoon. You'll remember that classic house from the intro? All I did for that is I came in the toolbox and looked up house, and I just used the first classic Roblox house that came up. So I'll position this in the world where I want it to be after the player builds it, and then I'll drag this out of the workspace into server storage. But now that we're back in the script, we also are going to need a reference to server storage so we can get that classic house, and then create a new reference to the house by saying house equals server storage dot classic house. Since there's a space, it'll put it in brackets, but it's okay. It means the same thing as a period. So now that we have the player firing through that they've pressed the button, we'll create a clone of this house, and we'll say clone equals house clone. Pretty simple. And then we'll just move the clone's parent to workspace. The last thing we want to do is remove the button after the player's pressed it. So we'll say button.parent destroy, since the button's parent is the model and we want to destroy the base and the button. So now we can hit play, and if we step onto this button, there you go. You've built your first Tycoon house. There's one last problem with this system that we have to address, which is that here you'll see there are 6 buttons, but as we walk over them, it spawned in more than 6 classic houses. It actually spawned in 10. And the reason this is happening is because sometimes the touched event on the button fires more than once if your player steps on it. So the way we fix this is by coming into this button script here and adding a debounce. A debounce checks to see if something has already been done and prevents you from doing it again too quickly. The way we do it is by saying local debounce equals false. And then in the touched event, we check if debounce equals false, then we want to proceed. And then after we've proceeded, we just set debounce to true, do what we want, and then wait, let's say 1 second before they can press the button again, before we set the debounce back to false. This means if this touched event gets fired 3 times in a row, it'll only fire this remote event 1 time. We'll make sure to copy that and move it down here too, so it works for both of these. And now if we press play, load in here, we'll notice still have 6 buttons here. And now you actually can't run over them too fast because there's a 1 second delay between. But as we've stepped on them all, there are 6 houses. And that's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it if you made it to the end of the video. Let me know if this tutorial was helpful to you. And if it was, make sure you like and hit the subscribe button. But I appreciate it, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.